Bienvenidos a Normaland, el podcast de la redacción de Norma Editorial.
Muy buenas, bienvenidos a Normaland. Los circos ya sabéis que pueden traer la máxima diversión o el horror más absoluto. No son pocas las historias de cómics, películas, series que nos plantean los circos como elementos de fantasía que a veces producen auténticos escalofríos. Y bien, en la obra Las Hermanas Seasons de Rick Remender y Paul Azaceta, precisamente nos encontramos con ese contraste entre un circo maravilloso y un circo de los horrores, donde cuatro hermanas muy variopintas, entre ellas, sufren la desaparición de sus padres y a raíz de la llegada de un misterioso circo en la ciudad, pues todo se va a ir enrevesando y iremos descubriendo cosas de cómo son las hermanas, qué ha pasado con los padres y qué nos depara el futuro con esta historia. Y para comentar este cómic, ¿quién mejor que Arnau París, que es el editor de cómic americano de la casa? Y bueno, Arnau, ¿qué nos puedes explicar de las Hermanas Seasons?
Pues bueno, Las Hermanas Seasons, nueva serie de Rick Remender, de nuestro querido Rick Remender, que ya hemos publicado un montón de series.
Yo creo que todo el catálogo que no ha sido de superhéroes, todo lo tenemos.
Y aquí se ha juntado con Paul Azaceta, que muchos conocerán de Outcast, de Paria, esa serie con Robert Kirkman, pero que aquí coge un tono distinto, porque si en Outcast hacía una serie de terror más oscura, aquí tenemos Las Hermanas Seasons, que es una serie más para todas las edades, es una aventura de fantasía muy colorida.
Sí, el color es lo que nos llama la atención porque hay un contraste espectacular.
Color de Mateus López, que conoceréis por su trabajo con Bill Case en Helen de Windhorn, por ejemplo. Y bueno, pues es una serie, como decía, son cuatro hermanas, las Hermanas Seasons, que son primavera, otoño, verano e invierno.
¿Quién lo hubiera dicho?
Y es en un mundo fantástico, muy parecido al nuestro, pero un poco distinto.
Sí, igual una época un pelín más atrás.
Sí, un poco más... Sí, exacto, principios del siglo XX o así.
¿Por ahí?
Y nada, y es una aventura, ¿no? Son estas chicas que han crecido sin sus padres, que eran unos detectives que desaparecieron.
En extrañas circunstancias.
Y que de repente ven que ha aparecido una especie de feria carnavalesca que va de ciudad en ciudad y que deja ensimismada a la gente, con lo que tendrán que empezar a investigar qué es eso y cómo salvarse y cómo salvar el mundo. Así que es una aventura mucho más de estilo juvenil, mucho más no tan seria como ni oscura como suele hacer Remender ni Paul, para todos los públicos y bueno, un misterio súper divertido, súper intrigante.
Es juvenil, pero ojo, no quitemos del foco que tiene ese punto de misterio y ese punto de horror, no horror como el típico de criaturas.
Es para todas las edades.
Sí, es para todas las edades, pero tiene este puntito de horror que como que te pilla la historia, pero no... Tampoco es un terror que digas, un niño pequeño no lo puede leer, no.
Y el misterio engancha.
El misterio engancha porque bueno, pasan cositas y las hermanas son muy, muy distintas entre ellas y esto todavía le da más salseo familiar al asunto.
Acabamos de publicar el primer volumen, sí. Ya estamos preparando el segundo y en principio esta historia será de unos 3 volúmenes. Pero bueno, quizá abierta a que haya nuevas aventuras de estos personajes, pero en principio la saga, esta historia que acaba de empezar, será de 3 volúmenes.
Luego ya dependerá del bueno de Rick y del bueno de Paul, a ver qué deciden hacer, que precisamente con ellos dos hablaremos a continuación. Ya os avanzamos que la entrevista será en inglés por cuestiones de que, claro, Paul y Rick son básicamente de habla inglesa especialmente. Y con lo cual podréis ver la entrevista en YouTube subtitulada y en Spotify también. Y si la queréis solo escuchar, sí que será en inglés. Y sin más dilación, pues pasamos a la entrevista con ellos. We are honored to be joined from the United States by the tireless writer Rick Remender. How are you doing, Rick?
I'm very well. Thank you for asking. It's a little late. And Grandpa Remender is a little tired, but I'm happy to be here chatting you guys up and seeing Paul's lovely face. It's been far too long.
We will do this quickly, so you can go to sleep.
We don't have to rush. Once I start talking, I really like it. So
Let's have fun then. Here in the studio, we have the pleasure to be joined by the talented artist Paul Azaceta. How are you doing, Paul?
I'm doing great. Very happy to be here. It's morning for me.
Yes.
So I'm still waking up and he's falling asleep.
Quite early here, so.
It's only morning for you though, Paul, not for the rest.
I'm a little bit sleepy, so yes, I'm agree. And I'm also enjoyed by our comic book editor Arnau París and the marketing manager Elementos. Maybe I'm wrong, so if I'm wrong, correct me, please. The first seed for this collaboration was planned in 2006 when you worked together on the story Black-Haired Billy. Almost 20 years later, you have reunited to create the seasons. Rick and Paul, how did the idea come about?
Well, the origins of it just go to Paul illustrated a short story of Black-Heart Billy, which was sort of a retelling of the evening that I met my wife. We've been pals forever and just wanted to do something. And so I think we started seriously talking about seasons during COVID. That's how long these things take. And so during the discussions, it was during COVID. And so we started talking about it, and the idea has been kind of gestating for a while. The initial aspect of the idea that it's gone through so many iterations. When you take a few years, it started off as I was watching cartoons with my kids all the time, and at some point we had seen some Hanna-Barberas. We watched Scooby-Doo and Johnny Quest, and I got to thinking about every one of those episodes was a mystery, and by the end of the episode, the mystery is solved, and they went off to the mystery. And I'd been thinking about this family, the season, and looking for a way through it. And it occurred to me that you could take a sort of classic archetype of a family of detectives and adventurers. And what if at one of the end of those episodes, the Scooby-Doo gang realized they weren't up against an old man in a mask, but they actually were up against something supernatural. And in the case of the seasons, these are 4 young sisters and their 2 great adventurous parents. And the parents went missing. They were erased from reality. And these 4 sisters had to then and kind of move through life. I'm hearing an echo, sorry. And so I've been, dealing with it for years and years, just trying to figure out what to do. And it occurred to me in a conversation with Paul that, the most interesting way through it was to open the story 10 years after the parents were missing. And with the damage of these 4 sisters, and to deal with the ramifications of that. And we did 3 or 4 calls. I think when I was, completely crazy, locked in the house in 2020, and we talked about Miyazaki, and we talked about Tintin, and we talked about some of the Winsor McKay things that we would love and would love to play, but never had the courage to step off path what we've been doing a lot of, which was crime and science fiction and superheroes, and do something that was all ages. It just leaned into the humanity and the sort of whimsy of those Miyazaki movies, but with the idea of a sort of Johnny Quest family that had been shattered, and they had that one mission that they didn't come back from. And Paul started sending in illustrations, and we developed for a couple years before we launched. And that's why it's so beautiful. It's a wonderful book. If I don't say so myself, we view the book to be wonderful, by the way.
Yeah, I think the initial spark of well, to speak first of Rick, like we've known each other, like you said, like for since 2000. Before that, I feel like it's been my whole career in comics, which has been a while now. But I've known him for so long, and we've always talked about doing something together. It's one of those things that it's just scheduling and other stuff, and getting busy with this, and he's busy with that. And it was always something like that. We were able to do that short together, which was awesome, which I always feel really cool about, because it is his first meeting with his wife, who's amazing, and so to be able to like kind of capture that moment for them in a way, or contribute somehow to their little life they built together and stuff like that in any even small way is pretty cool. But yeah, so we talked many years about, we gotta do something, and it never kind of worked out because he was busy with this, or I was busy with that, and whatever. And then finally COVID happened, and I was finishing Outcast, or I just finished Outcast, whatever it was, and I was looking for something else to do. Basically, like, I was hopping around a little bit again because taking little jobs here and there, but I really wanted to do something else that was like creator-owned and something I could like really sink my teeth into more than just work for hire thing. So yeah, we started talking, and I remember the first kind of couple of talks. Rick came. He's like, I have a few ideas that we could maybe go down any of these paths, because like, we basically wanted to work together, but we didn't know exactly even which way to go, and I think we were both in a place where like I had done horror, and we were both at a point where we were like, we kind of want to just do something fun with like an adventure, and like he brought up like even the Miyazaki stuff, and and I always loved those movies. I love like a lot of all ages movies, whether it's Pixar or Miyazaki or other things like that, even Tintin and adventure, stuff like that, and I never really got to do that in my career. So it was like an opportunity, like, hey, let's do this. Let's do something that maybe people wouldn't expect us to do. Might be a little out of left field, but it'll be so much fun because the creativity that'll come out of that will be like probably more fun than just drawing somebody very seriously murdering people, which is what I usually get tasked to do. So we did that, and then once we started getting that ball rolling, like you said, and getting the idea rolling, and so it just became more and more of a fun idea of like, then we could do this, then we could do that, and then the kind of seed of the idea that he had, which is like this world where like, like the evil circus and this kind of like magic exists in a way, and all that stuff, and we could kind of play with all that kind of stuff. So like it kind of left this opportunity to do almost anything with the story, and any visually and with the plot and with the characters. So I was like, this is perfect. This is something we can like really have fun with, and so far so good. I mean, I know he's probably grayer from dealing with me, but besides that, it's been good.
One of the comic's greatest success is the dual tone. The apparent lightness of Spring's adventure contrasts with the growing sense of threat and mystery looming over the family. How do you, as a team, manage the tonal balance?
I think that's something that Rick, I think, did really well with the script and stuff. I think visually, I try to create almost like a language for each of those things. Like when we're with Spring or with one of the sisters, like even the paneling, the layouts, so I had to like kind of keep it in a way where like it's reminiscent of Tintin or those kind of things, those European comic books that we love so much. And things like that too, but then the horror I can always lean into it. I say it's something I've done for a while, I've done in my career, so and it's a genre I love. So that when I get to those things, then it's almost like just switching it, and then I think it was really Rick would probably speak better, because then me visually doing that was cool, but then him weaving the story and whether it's through dialogue or whatever, like and kind of connecting it all together, I think is one of the things that he does really well in the book.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's the kind of thing that I love to read and I love to see, but the modern marketplace doesn't really it didn't immediately occur to me that this would be something that people would gravitate to as much as they had, but it was one of those things that I wanted to do it and Paul wanted to do it, and so we just said we're going to take the risk and we're going to do something that's sort of all ages, really, heartfelt, character focused, and then even took a bigger swing where it's not, the plot doesn't really pick up for a couple of issues. I like characters. We live in a world that I kind of feel there's an unfortunate instinct that somehow plot momentum is more important than character development, and that's not the school of thinking that I come from. So it's a little bit self-indulgent to do it the way I think it should be done in terms of the scripting, and that is to take your time, slowly unfold the world without a bunch of exposition or plot momentum. But in that first issue, we did, a 38-page sequence of Spring chasing that cursed letter as it was moving around New Golly. And that gave us an opportunity to introduce all the characters without having it be contrived. It was this really wonderful way of flowing through the world and taking a look at it. And I couldn't be more proud of it. I think it's just wonderful. But ultimately, it's the type of storytelling that demands that you come along for the ride when you get momentum and things start to unfold and the threat starts to become real. And the rest of it is beautifully illustrated character work that hopefully makes you care about the characters prior to things going off the rails.
Paul, for many readers, your work on Outcast, alongside with Robert Kirkman, is a benchmark for dark horror. That's why seeing your work in Seasons, it's a true revelation. So, what was how it was the creative process in Seasons?
Like I said, I've always loved all kinds of movies. I think because of my style and the kind of books I did, especially earlier in my career, I got kind of pegged as more serious noir horror type artist and stuff. But the reality of it is that, like, when I go to watch movies, or I'm reading books, watching movies, TV shows, or whatever, I'm all across the board. I love everything from very serious French, like Truffaut type stuff, movies or things like that. But then I also will sit down and watch Amazing World of Gumball for a couple hours or so, probably too long, when I should be getting pages done. But so I'm all over the board with that. So I really was looking forward to just kind of doing something that I wasn't able to do professionally, but maybe in my sketches or other things like that. So every now and then I would do things, and I think what I did was basically just open up more. I work with Mateos, the colorist. I worked a lot with him in the beginning, especially kind of trying to set a tone for the book, a look of the book, and a lot of it had to do with just kind of opening up and using color and using things. Something I always liked, even in horror. I tried to do an Outcast some, but this one was just going to open up, and also just I think for me it was an exercise also with expression and kind of exaggerating all the poses and expressions. So that's why actually I really fell in love with drawing Spring, the main sister in this story anyway. And it's because I think everything she does is so dramatic, so it was a lot of fun. So for me it was instead of trying to be so serious that everybody's just kind of doing these very subtle acting almost, no, I get a chance now to be broad, be big with everything, if she's stubs her toe, it's the worst thing in the world that she's hopping around the whole room, instead of just the way Punisher or something would just my toe, so this way I get to kind of do it. So it was a lot of that. It was trying to make everything bigger and broader and just kind of brighter, and pull back on the blacks too, a little bit like that, to kind of let Mateos come in and throw in colors and things like that, and not kind of how can I say, jam the world with too much shadow and things like that.
Family bonds carry a significant weight within the story. Rick, were you more interested in exploring the fragility of those bonds or the unbreakable strength they demonstrate when they are threatened?
It's like I have 3 mandatory things for any project I'll work on, and it has to be something that says something that I really, really want to write about personally, something that I also want to comment on about in the world, and it has to have a visual hook. And if I can get those 3 things, then I'll really sink in and start to develop. And one of the things that the broken family and a lot of the sort of dysfunction of what these sisters are experiencing is, my family of origin is a little shattered up, and so I was processing a lot of that during the writing of it and dealing with, obviously the analogy with the mirrors, if you haven't clued in, is cell phones. And the family, then that's the commentary on the world. But the shattering of the family and digging into that, I think, is for me the most fascinating part. Seeing there's very few artists underappreciated, not even enough of a it doesn't give it enough weight. But there's what Paul can do with the acting, subtle and smart. And just the first 4 issues, these 4 sisters, and they all have personality. They all have an expressiveness. There's a scene where Spring is in her bedroom and she's listening to her favorite radio program. You can hear anything that in any other room that makes a loud thump in the middle of the night. And there's some there that I get leave in my mind because it's perfect comic book pages. And it's with a 13-year-old girl. And man, that is hard to do. And to make it look like Tintin and the gravity that the illustration brings, of the acting, allows me to write what I feel is some of the best characters in regards to their how 3-dimensional they feel to me. Every time I write an issue or dialogue an issue, I just wish Paul could actually produce pages at a regular pace and we could write more and more characters. Because Paul does take such a tremendous amount of time and energy. But when I finally get to the characters and live with their shattered family, and you see the bonds, even when I feel that even when Spring and Winter are arguing in those early scenes, you get the sweet and the bitter. You get real family. That was monumentally important to me in the story, that we do that in a way that's truly engaging and heartfelt before you get to the action, that there's the context and that we care a little bit. And and exploring the sort of dysfunction of was also something that I personally wanted to write about.
And the sisters have such different personalities and different life, completely different between them. For me, that's the most exciting part.
It's sort of inherent in the idea that they were each named after a season, that they would then have attributes of the season. And, that is sort of the Saturday morning cartoon of it all, I think. That, again, it was supposed to feel like this, and there was an iteration of this that was very much Carrie and the Pirates meets Scooby-Doo. And, their parents were the great adventurers and the kids were drawn along. And I just never found my way really through that until I got the idea that, oh no, the story is 10 years after the parents have gone missing, and this family, these girls have had to raise themselves, and so the characters are everything. They really are, and it's I just love these characters. I just love them a lot.
Well, I just want to add too that I think that's one of the things that we really try to do with the book is build the character. I mean, he's been saying it a few times, talking about the character, focusing on character kind of more than plot in a way. I think it's one of those things that every story I love is I always think about like the character moments first before like oh, and then this is how he solved the big mystery, or this is how that, or that, it's more about like, oh, I love those little moments where like the character says the cool line, or he's hanging out with, it's just them two hanging out at the bar, so like in Jaws when it's just the three of them on the boat and they're all kind of trading horror stories of like whatever, or Scar stories and stuff like that. Like those are the moments, more so than just like the plot of like them trying to get the fish. But it's about that kind of stuff, and I think that's what we try to do with the book, so that even after this mystery and this kind of plot kind of revolves itself, or whatever, kind of stuff like that, and then we have these characters that hopefully people love, that now we can take them and run them through any adventure after that and stuff, and then we have this, something that people can attach to more so than just like, oh, that was cool the way the mystery came together, or the thing, the mystery box opened and this is what happened. So I think that's what's important.
For me, without the spoiler, the letter chasing sequence is the soul of the first issue for me. It's pure visual narrative, and the question is, how do you construct that frenetic and understandable rhythm without dialogue?
Well, it was nice. I could tell Rick.
For me, it's so complicated.
Sit back and take a seat. I got this. No, actually, Rick. Rick and I both actually really took a lot of time to figure that whole thing out and stuff. And I know he sat down and just trying to figure out something that can link each scene to the next scene and all that, things like that, and creating that whole flow of action was something that I know Rick took some time to figure out, and then from that I had to sit down and I had to really think. It was actually it was tough also because being the first issue, I hadn't established anything. It was our chance to establish things, so I had to kind of establish things in my mind, or even with sketches, or before I even started doing pages and everything, because I had to figure out the flow of the whole action. So and I think it was a lot of it was it was really challenging, probably one of the most challenging things I did in my career, but at the same time it was really rewarding because I think it really captured one of the initial things that we were talking about, which is the Tintin stuff. When we bring up Tintin and stuff, and then actually relate that to also the Indiana Jones movies too, where there's this what I would call a rolling action, and I always love those scenes too, where this happens, that then Indiana Jones will drop his hat or something like that too, and then he ducks, and that's when the guy throws his punch and just misses, and he doesn't even realize that he puts his hat on, turns around, then the guy runs into the telephone pole or something that comes in and whatever, and then he's okay, cool, and then he turns around, and the truck's about to go off the cliff or something like that too. And I'm just kind of making up as I go here, but he's the writer, not me. But it's this kind of thing, this kind of everything leads to the next action, so even writing that, I think was tough, and then me planning it, I think it just took a lot more planning ahead kind of thing. I'm always thinking of the next page, the next few pages, or that scene, but this one was literally whatever ended up being 30 pages or whatever. So I really had to think about from one end to the other. If I'm doing something here, then literally 10 pages from now I might pay off or something, or I have to figure out how to think. So it's it was just a lot more planning and sitting down doing that, and it took a little more kind of thinking ahead of time and stuff, but I don't know, for me it was really rewarding. I'm really happy with that issue, because I think it's I remember when we were done with it, when it was completely done, colored and lettered and all, and we had the first PDF of all right, this is the book, we're gonna send this to the printer. I remember looking at that and just sitting back oh man, we did it. The thing we were talking about for how many years, and trying to capture this kind of feel and that kind of thing, and so we love these kind of European comic books and this and that kind of, and all this those little things and conversations we had. I remember sitting back oh man, we did it, this is it, and I was really happy with it. So I'm happy other people also enjoy it too.
What can you tell about Mateus Lopez colors?
Well, I mean, we were very lucky. He's kind of in demand now, I think, in the American industry, the U.S. industry. and stuff. So I was really happy that we were able to like, had time in his schedule to do our book and stuff. But I think he's amazing. I think if you see what he's been able to do, even with us other artists, and the way he's able to kind of like mold the style towards them, and then also, for me, it was like his palette choice, like his color choices too. Like, I think there's a lot of American comics, unfortunately, that have like a very shiny aesthetic or very muddy palette, and it was when I saw like some of the stuff that he was doing, where he was actually like really like pulling colors and popping this color only here, and like really keep capturing moods, and like not competing with the art in any way. Even didn't matter which artist he was kind of coloring over and stuff. When I saw all that stuff, I was just like, I think this guy can really do something on our book, because I did have like a very specific idea of like what to do with the book, like I was talking about earlier, where I wanted something more open, more fun, more colorful, but then also like there's sequences with the circus that we wanted to have like this very poppy colors, but then like the other scenes outside the circus have to be like, you know, more muted, but at the same time we don't want to like lose the colors. So it's like it's a really delicate balance of like and fun, and like just seeing some of the other stuff he did, I was like, I think he could really do it. And then when we finally actually got to talk to him, and he did say, oh, you know, I do have the time, I can do this. Going back and forth with him in the beginning, I kind of like laid out, I sent him some like images, examples, and it's like, hey, here's kind of what I'm thinking, and this and that. Wrote him a whole like little paragraph of like what my thought process was of like what to do with it, and then he just kind of took that and ran. And honestly, it was like, it didn't take much past that. It was like the first couple of things he did, I was like, he's got it, like this is it. Like, and it was like, I think we were both just very happy, like, oh yes, we got, like this guy's gonna do some good stuff. And even as of now, like I don't give him many notes now, because I think he's run with the style now. He's done whatever. Every now and then it's like certain things, like just story wise or something, like, oh, this should be red, or that should be yellow, or her t-shirt needs to be, or whatever, some random thing like that. But for the most part, I'm always just like yeah, that's amazing, awesome, keep going, you know.
And we can't end without the standard question. Rick, Paul, what projects are you currently working? And do you have any more together?
Rick, do you ever want to work with me ever again?
Look, I mean, you know, when Paul works, Paul's great. I think that for me, it's, I've been very spoiled in my career, and I've worked with a lot of, you know, tremendous artists, and made a lot of books that are very personal, and have made far more creator-owned books than corporate books. And working with people like Paul is the thing that keeps me here. You know, I almost quit comics twice in the last 7 or 8 years, and I think that the things that always bring me back is being able to make a book like this, and being able to see it realized by somebody like Paul and this, and with Russ Wooten's lettering. It's the kind of high bar that I wanted to set for myself. And if I was going to stick around in you know, I'm now in my early 50s, and still keep grinding out comics, they have to be at that level. Where I can't. And so, you know, we've all dedicated 30 to, you know, I come from animation, a storyboard artist, and I've run live action, and I've shown animation, and I've developed animation. We've all done these right to this thing, and comic books allow you this opportunity to exactly what you want to make, in a way that you might not get a chance to in any other place. You know, getting it through a committee, getting things approved. I mean, look, I've developed 5 TV shows in the past 7, 8 years, and one of them got made, but the others, years and years of work and development, and they don't get made. The comic books, they do get made. And so while it might take some time, and it might be arduous at moments, if you're going to work with artists who do this level of work, you're going to have a different kind of muscle when it comes to being able to schedule and produce. So, I mean, I guess it's a long way of saying I love Paul's work. I imagine that but an opportunity to work with him if we ever manage to finish.
Well, no, I definitely would love to do more. I think even just with seasons, seasons is like for me the exact books I want to do in my career. So I think throughout my career, especially early on, I just kind of like the projects that come, or the projects that come, or the jobs that come. You know, working with Marvel, DC, or whoever. These are the jobs that kind of come across my table that are offered to me, and then I'm going to take them because I need a job, you know. But luckily, like once I got to the point where I was looking for something a little more, and then Outcast came along with Robert Kirkman, I was like, this is exactly what I want. Something I could just kind of like do for a while, like one book, not hop around, and really sink my teeth into that and do that thing and really dive deep into one story. And that was amazing. And working with Robert's great. So as soon as I had that, then it was just like, well, this is what I want to do now. And like this specific thing, like not just work on comics, not just like work for hire kind of thing, but I want to work with whether it's working with a friend or just writing and drawing and stuff myself. But I just want to just create my own thing, create my own world. And also, if I'm going to work with somebody, it'll be somebody like Rick, who's a good friend, and we can really bounce ideas off each other. We can really talk, and even to the point where. You know, he could yell at me or we could yell at each other, and it'll be fine because like we're friends, and at the end of the day we both know what we want is a good book, and the end product of that I think is something I'm really proud of. And so I would love to do more stuff along this line, whether it's with Rick, which I'm pretty sure we will, but because as soon as we wrap up this, like I said, we have those characters now. You know, we have those sisters. And we kind of go anywhere with it after because of the way the whole story is set up and the whole way the world is set up. So I mean that to me is exciting. And we could talk about a lot of stuff. And then besides that, it'll be me writing and drawing because I want to definitely do more of that stuff where I want to do books that are just kind of all me and out of my own head, because I think that's another luxury you have in comic books is where it can literally be one person. You know, whether it's a Frank Miller or you know whoever, that you can do something that's just like a single vision. So it's very rare. You can't do that in animation and movies. Also, it's just literally impossible because like you need a crew to help you to do these things. They're massive undertakings, you know. So like a comic book you can do by yourself in your room with just paper and a pen and maybe a computer to scan things in, but. You know, so I want to take advantage of that stuff too. So it's all I want to do for the rest of my career, or my life, not just my career. So hopefully I can, and hopefully people will buy it, so I can continue to do that.
Yes, that's the most important part.
That's why I say it for the end.
Buy it, go and buy it. Before we conclude, do you have any questions?
Well, I just wanted to ask you, what are your plans with the seasons specifically? Is it going? I think you just released the second volume, second TPB. So, are you doing more? What are the plans for the series?
Well, we're in the midst of working on the third arc now, and I think the third arc ends the first major story. I don't know how many issues it'll run total at this point. A lot of various moving pieces, but it is the intended sort of conclusion of this first story arc, the big one that we started here. And I have been working on a live action or an animated swing and some pitching ideas, and but if it goes on beyond that, it's kind of up to sort of appetite and energy. We're neither one of us young men, and so I'm sure that Paul has something that he wants to be drawing and that he's been working on in his spare time, that he's been writing for himself. And so I think that if the single issues go 13, 14 issues, something like that, for the first story arc. And I could write these characters for 100 years. I love but the reality is that unless you start bringing in teams of artists and changing up and there's nothing with that, but I think and we talked about it for a while, but I think ultimately all really wanted to bring the artist on this, and I think that speaks to the integrity, and our ability, we'll take a pause here and we'll take a breath and give the time it needs. We are making something that we truly care about, and it's not the kind of thing that was a surefire hit. We had a couple of other things we had discussed working on, and they were far more sort of in line with market trends and where the world seems to want their entertainment to come from. But we chased down something that was really unique and heartfelt and personal, and I couldn't be more proud of it. So by the end, if that's the end of it, then it'll still be something that, at the end of the day, I would, I guess I used to use the BBC as kind of, the method that they would take to a lot of the best shows were, sometimes they would only run 4, 5, 6 episodes, maybe a couple seasons, and then stop, even though they were huge hits. And there would be love. It hit a point where it sort of made sense to just go, okay, we did this thing really well. We gave it everything we had. Maybe it's okay just as it is, and they would walk away rather than this need to endlessly perpetuate the thing. But that's a long way of saying.
Well, here concludes the episode. Rick, Paul, thank you for your time, and please keep going with seasons.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
Bueno, y hasta aquí este nuevo episodio de Normaland. Esperamos que lo disfrutéis muchísimo, tanto como nosotros. Y nada, ya sabéis que si os ha gustado, dejadnos un comentario, un like, críticas constructivas o no, eso ya cada cual que haga lo que quiera, pero al menos interactuad con nosotros, que estamos atentos a todo lo que nos ponéis. Y ya sabéis, si os ha gustado, compartidlo con todos vuestros amigos y amigas lectoras, y larga vida a los cómics. Nos vemos en el siguiente episodio.
Gracias por seguirnos. Encuéntranos en las redes sociales de Norma Editorial y no olvides suscribirte para no perderte ninguno de nuestros programas. Recuerda que, además de YouTube, nos puedes escuchar en Spotify, SoundCloud y el resto de agregadores.